Welcome to Season 2 of the Practicing Presence podcast, where spiritual formation is fueled through a variety of practices rather than a single prescriptive time of devotion, where we discuss different spiritual practices that help us be more present with God, others, and ourselves.
What's up, practitioners?
What's up, friends? How we doing?
So we're doing something cool today that I'm excited about.
We're doing something that Clayton came up with, and I think it's dope. I love it.
So we're filming right after our gathering, and we're finishing up our gathering, and we had some very awesome chorizo and eggs, with some cinnamon raisin toast.
So I made, basically what I made is I made chorizo and eggs, which is kind of spicy, and then I had a buttered cinnamon raisin toast that's like a sort of sweet compliment, and it was dope.
It was so good. And it's just real simple, but I was like, even this simple creation that tastes so good is dope.
Yeah.
Like it feels good. Like, how can this be a bad thing? And now we're moving into like Thanksgiving. Like this is going to come out the day before Thanksgiving. So tomorrow, maybe even tonight for some of you, because, you know, holidays are crazy.
Commercialization.
You are going to be eating a lot of food, arguably overeating a lot of food, but that's a different conversation. But there is going to be a lot of food. And, some of it's going to be good. Some of it's not. And what happens when you eat bad food, Cullen?
It's not an enjoyable experience.
It's not good. It's not fun.
And unfortunately, if we're just honest, Thanksgiving food really is not that great.
No. Well, it can be.
It can be. But by and large, it's not.
Well, it's because it's a white person holiday. Largely, it's a holiday for colonizers. And historically, white people don't season food.
It's so true.
I'm sorry.
It's so true. Only country white people cook good.
Yeah, like
it's because it's a simple pleasure in life. We don't got nothing else.
Yeah. The people that just salt their chicken breast and call it good. It freaking kills me, man. I can't do it. It's so boring.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, it's so boring, and it like eventually tastes like cardboard.
Yeah.
Everything tastes the same, and it's not good, and it's not an enjoyable experience. Because cooking food is creative in more ways than just plating. Right? Cooking food is understanding, what do I have in my spice rack? What fresh herbs can I put with this?
Yeah.
What is a great side that will complement? You know, and also, how do you pair drinks? There is a full creative process in the culinary arts. And it's called an art for a reason.
Yeah.
And so going from being able to understand how to blend the seasons with the food that I'm making to present to somebody else.
Yeah.
That sounds divinely creative.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. And it also sounds divinely creative because you're meeting a need for somebody in this way. That's why potlucks are dope.
Yeah.
If they're done right.
You're also creating an experience.
You are also creating an experience. You're creating memories.
Potlucks have the potential to be dope.
Correct.
Unfortunately, lots of times they're not.
Yeah, because the food sucks.
Exactly. But, and you know, we can crap on it all the time, but this is why events go off better with good food.
Yes, always.
Now, unfortunately, because of commercialization and the way we do this, most of the time good food is expensive.
Correct.
But it does not have to be.
Yeah.
Clayton Ware, you and I spent a lot of years dirt poor
And still eating good.
and still eating good because it's about the only good thing going on in life.
Well, and like the fact that we were a family that hunted and fished really helped with this.
Well, it helped with the expense.
Right. It helped with the expense. And then we took the meats that we hunted ourselves and processed it ourselves and then cooked it ourselves.
Yeah.
Which creates a holistic process and a story and experience in there. Because even though we're not dirt poor, we still hunt.
Yeah. We still harvest our own animals. Well, and part of it is when you do it that way, you know exactly what that animal is.
Absolutely.
You know exactly where it came from and what it ate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no hormones. It was no preservatives.
Mm-hmm.
It is a wild animal that exists only on nature.
Correct.
All natural.
Correct. And in Texas, hogs are free to kill.
Yeah, they're a nuisance animal. You
Yeah.
can kill them anywhere and as many as you want.
But deer, I think paid $60 for my license and all my tags.
68 is
$68
is the resident of Texas hunting and fishing super combo. You can do just about anything you want with that one in the state of Texas.
And if you think about hunting mature deer, you're getting a lot of meat for very cheap.
Yeah. So it depends. If you got to pay for a lease,
that's also true.
the cost goes up.
That is also true. But if you have like a place to go hunt,
If you have a place, and you can hunt public land.
you can.
It is free to hunt public land or some public land in Texas. Some will charge you like a $5 day pass. Like it's absolutely nothing. And sometimes you got to pay to camp. But like overall, public land hunting is very cheap. Also, I am about to buy a rooftop tent and some storage things for my truck so that I can do public land hunting across the state of Texas because it's cheap.
Yeah. It is a cheap, easy way to harvest meat.
All of your tags, right? And in the state of Texas, you get 5 turkey tags. You get a couple of javelina hogs, which those unique javelina hogs are a game animal. Wild hogs are not. Feral hogs are not. You get 5 whitetail tags, 4 of which you can only harvest in the same county. So in order to harvest all of your deer, you have to do them in multiple counties.
Yep.
And you get 3 mule deer tags. And a red drum tag for any redfish over 28 inches. And catfish are also not a game fish.
Correct.
Which are a common Texas fish.
Yeah. You can catch a lot of catfish. And you can catch as many as you can catch.
That's the deal. It's also uncapped. There's no limit on how many you can catch. There are limits on bass. And bass also don't get as big.
Correct.
Right? So, like, I think a world record bass is like less than 20 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like 18 pounds, I think, 18 and a half or something. I have personally seen 80-pound catfish.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple, like it was not uncommon.
They are massive fish.
Yeah, not uncommon to see when we were growing up.
And I actually kind of get this to some extent because I've had bad catfish before. But there's a bunch of people out there that don't like catfish because they haven't had good catfish.
Right. They have not had well-cleaned catfish.
They don't know how to cook, or they haven't had it where somebody knew how to properly cook and clean it.
Right. Somebody did not know how to properly harvest that animal.
It is fried catfish when it is cleaned and harvested properly. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So there are very cheap ways to do good food.
Yeah.
Because growing up, one of my favorite things to eat was fried catfish.
Yeah.
That we caught running trout lines.
Yeah.
Like we just did. That was always one of my favorite things. I knew Saturday if we were going fishing, we were coming home with catfish, and that meant we were having catfish for dinner, and I was excited.
Yeah. Well, and I can remember somewhere between 4 and 6 months, Dad went without a job. In the middle of 2008, terrible downturn. And we lived entirely on venison, hogs, and fish that we harvested because we could not afford to really buy meat, to buy protein. That was not something we could afford because you're trying to make a little bit of money go a long way.
Right.
And all out of a savings account, which you know is a limited, fixed amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said it earlier. When you have that experience with the food that you end up eating, you view the eating experience very differently. Because you didn't go to the store and buy this. You know exactly where it came from. You know everything that happened to it from wild to table.
Yeah. So I have caught fish that we have ate many times. I don't really get this experience with that anymore.
What?
This like almost holistic experience from catching fish and then turning around and cooking it.
Oh, I still do.
Oh, you do?
Well, yeah. It's a little bit different because when we were fishing, we were running trot lines.
Right.
And trot lines are very different because, I mean, if you're doing it right, you're just not going to not catch fish.
Right. And so it's almost like it's expected at this point.
Yeah. We ate a lot of fried catfish.
We did.
When we were kids.
And it's because we were running trot lines.
All the time. Every night it seemed like.
There were several lines out. So it's like that has become less of an experience, but something that I can honor the animal in, like truly, like hunting deer.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I ate a deer that I shot. That was a very strange experience. Literally bullet to deer to cleaning rack, and then cleaning rack to table.
Or cooler.
Well,
yeah.
No, I'm
cutting
cutting out like
we processed all of it
fully
to go from animal standing on its own to drop dead where it stood to our table.
It's very strange that full holistic experience. But it does make the eating experience different. And it's because you are recognizing the fact that this thing was also created in divinity.
Yeah. Or with divinity in mind.
With divinity in mind, this thing was created.
Yeah.
It was created divinely.
Yeah.
That does create a different kind of experience. But also, I think that there is a big reason that each individual culture has its own style of food. Because that's how we learned to have food. At a very young age, that was how we got food. And that was food that was available to us.
Yep.
Every culture has its own.
Yeah. Well, and that's the biblical story, right? The ancient world, the average person of the biblical time, the Old Testament time period, is eating animals that they raise. There are very few people that are going to the market and buying animals for the purpose of slaughter and harvest.
Yeah. I think it's also really important to note right now that the idea of the Lord's Supper, bread and wine, cool, it's because those were things that were common to the table for Passover.
Yeah.
It is what they had. But that was a meal that they shared together.
Yeah.
That was done divinely. And so when we take this idea into the modern world, you know, through history and times and whatever, we've gotten to the cracker and the grape juice. We have taken a feast, a meal
And
that was shared together,
and pared it down to
a few sips of grape juice and a
bland
bland cracker that leaves dust on your fingers.
Yeah.
there is a whole lot of beauty and creativity that was just entirely stripped from the Lord's Supper. Mm-hmm. That's also why I don't like to talk about communion as the Lord's Supper, because it is not a supper. It is not a feast. It is not a meal. It is a box that we're checking.
Well, and so much so that now they have these like
pre-made. You can buy these things from like Lifeway.
They're like
peel the top, the cellophane off the top, and then drink the wine, or take the little cracker out of the thing, and then drink the grape juice.
Yeah, it's like they have different versions, but it's a all-in-one, self-contained, prepackaged cracker and juice in an individual serving.
It's
for
like
communion.
it's like a church Lunchable.
yeah, it's a communion Lunchable. That's a great way to say it.
And you know what?
It's awful.
It's terrible. Can you say commercialization of the church?
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. So I think that we always have to. We don't have to. We always do end up saying bad things about the state of the church and about every episode that we do on everything. And this is one of them.
It's just because I'm very aware of how the church is doing things wrong.
But this is one.
Oh, we have stripped the church of a very beautiful thing here.
Which, growing up in the church that we grew up in, as many qualms as I've got,
we ate good.
Yeah. And do you remember when we would have those potlucks?
Yeah.
The days that we would celebrate the Lord's Supper.
Yeah, you did them, which was every fifth Sunday.
Every fifth Sunday, we had a potluck.
Okay, let's clarify.
Yes.
Not every fifth Sunday, like in a revolving door, every 5 Sundays we were doing this.
Every
Any month that had a fifth Sunday, which is 3 times a year,
we would
every month that has a fifth Sunday, we would have communion and a potluck's lunch after.
It not nearly frequent enough.
No.
Not nearly frequent enough. No. But we would do the Lord's Supper in quotations. And then we would go have a potluck. Knowing what I know now, looking back at this, that was like, with the information that was available, cool, fine, whatever. You're doing something there, to share a meal together. But in my mind, the potluck looks more like what the Lord's Supper was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Because when Jesus did the whole breaking of the bread and, this wine is my blood, that whole situation, they were sharing a true meal together.
Yeah.
And that's how the early church practiced it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of beauty in that.
Yeah.
And so there's almost a way for us to talk about Thanksgiving is sharing the Lord's Supper. And guess what? Bread and wine are available at those tables too, generally speaking. Yeah. So here in America, when we do celebrate Thanksgiving, we can I feel like there's an argument there.
Oh, definitely.
That we are practicing the Lord's Supper, and there is a beauty and a reverence to it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, another term for communion, or the Lord's Supper, as you keep referring to it, is the Eucharist.
Right.
What does that mean?
I don't actually know what the Eucharist means.
Thanksgiving.
Oh, bro. Oh, bro. I didn't know that.
To give thanks, yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the feast of giving thanks.
Yeah, so there's the Eucharist, right?
Yeah.
But when we talk about communion these days, we think about those little plastic cups.
Oh, for sure.
For
sure. We're not thinking about whole meals. But that's how the Bible's thinking about it.
Right. The
Bible is thinking about Passover as like the Lord's Supper, the Last Supper that it's all modeled off of.
Right.
That's the Passover feast.
Right. Exactly. They are having a whole meal together.
A whole eating experience. And I guarantee you it tasted good.
I bet you it
because
did.
Jesus sent people there 12 hours early to prepare a place for it.
Yeah. Now there is also the rituals of the parsley and the salt water and all that stuff too, but that stuff doesn't taste so good.
But it's also partly about aromas.
That's also true.
It's an entire
experience.
Immersive experience that you're in with these feasts.
You're eating things that are supposed to make you feel certain ways.
Yeah. I remember going on my honeymoon when I was married, and we went on a culinary experience. There was it was an all-inclusive resort, and one restaurant was a culinary experience. And you watched a chef, the lead chef, make a plate. And back in the kitchen, there was other chefs making that same plate for everybody in the restaurant. And everybody went on this journey at the same time. They all brought out the meals at the same, the different dishes at the same time. Everybody ate them in their own at the same time. When you do things like that, which I think it was very much so modeled after how we would envision Jewish feasts. When you have those kind of experiences, you realize that they are immersive. Mm-hmm. The aromas in the air matter. What you drink combined with what you eat and when you do those, in what order you do those, all that matters.
For sure.
All of that matters in creating these immersive experiences. And so, absolutely. Culinary art is an element of divine creativity.
And I will say probably, so a memory that I will remember forever. And spoiler, I'm not going to tell a Thanksgiving story. I am going to tell a story of sitting at a table with a bunch of Italians.
Oh.
5 courses. Great wine. Ending with a beautiful grappa. This full eating experience with all of the food completely homemade, in a very intimate setting, very family-based, very kind of share the wealth. It builds community, and it builds memories. I learned more about everyone at that table than I ever thought I would. And they all learned more about me than they probably ever thought that they would. Relationships were built. Now, the only one that keeps up with any of these people is Dad, because he works with them in some ways. But this is a table that I will forever remember sitting at, because I walked away from it having an eating experience like I've never experienced in American life. I experienced an Italian family dinner. And dude, do Italians take food seriously. From start to finish. I remember walking away just dumbfounded. Not just by the food, but by the conversation, the environment. Because food, divinely created, creates relationships.
Thanks for listening to the Practicing Presence podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. Be sure to give us a rating and a review if you enjoyed the episode. It's free and it helps us immensely. Also, feel free to check out our other podcasts.